Welcome to Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC match reaction show and a preview show all in one. So we've got a bit of a double show tonight, as if we didn't have as much to talk about anyway. We're going to try and link in the West Ham game that's going to be played on Wednesday as well. So the main thing is we win. We're now 3 points clear above fourth place. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Connor, Charlie, thanks for coming on. How are you both?
Good, thank you for having me.
Yeah, much better than the last time we did a match reaction. I haven't been on for a couple of weeks on a reaction, but no, it's good. It's better. It's much better.
Good. Yeah. No, it's a good atmosphere at the moment. Obviously, I know as a fan base, we're probably a little bit worried because we probably know that we have to win every game now until the end of the season, or at least a draw at Chelsea. So it's going to be tough, but at the moment we're doing it, aren't we? So lots of things to be happy about. Got a few talking points as well for the Reading game. Obviously, we all know what happened with the Honour. Well, I can't say disallowed goal because it wasn't even seen to be a goal. So we want to talk a little bit about that. We want to talk about the fluidity of the front three. Is this our strongest front four, even without Sinja actually being part of that? Plenty to get into. Let's just talk about the build-up to the game. Obviously, you guys both went whilst I was stuck at work. A long journey down there. Well, I say a long journey, maybe not so much for you, Connor, but it would have been for me in the Midlands. Just what were your thoughts actually about driving down to the game? Charlie, start off with yourself. Were you quietly confident? Because, I don't think we're too bad, have we?
Yeah, I was. I felt like footballing-wise, from like just a quality of football point of view, they shouldn't cause that many issues. If we just played our game and technically played well. There's always the concern with Reading that they can batter you, like physically. They'll just come and give you a bit of a kick in. And I think sometimes historically we've struggled with that a little bit. But actually, I think increasingly this season, Reading are trying to play football a bit more. And that probably helped us a little bit because they just aren't as good a football team. Their players aren't as good as ours. And we played brilliantly the first half. We just blew them off the park, really. So yes, confident, a bit of trepidation with regards to sort of how they would approach it, how physical they would be, but actually they were less physical than historically I would expect. So actually it was maybe first half slightly easier than expected. Second half was tougher. They came out all guns blazing, but then I think we showed another side to ourselves there, a little bit of backs against the wall, blocking shots on the line, which is quite nice to see actually from a mentality point of view. So I think you saw both sides of us because you saw both sides of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do. And I'll bring you in shortly. Just if anyone's wondering where Catherine is, she's stuck in traffic. So that was about half an hour ago. So she might come and join us halfway through. Fingers crossed. But Connor, obviously, Charlie just made some great points there. Just your thoughts going into that, because I felt comfortable going into that game. Like I thought Reading not as physical as they're known to be in previous seasons. I felt that even though we've had a bit of a rocky month, there were games against the very top teams, and at the moment we haven't been let down against any of the weaker teams. We've never lost anyway. We've had a couple of draws, but was you feeling confident going into this one, mate?
Well, my first thought on the drive down was, what am I doing this early in a stadium, if I'm being totally honest?
Yeah, good point.
I will make that point. It was very, very strange being in a ground at 10 o'clock in the morning. That was weird. And I think partly that took a bit of the atmosphere away because half the people were so shattered being at that time of the morning. Obviously, long drive. It wasn't so bad for me being in 90 odd minutes away, but it was very strange being in there at that time. It's weird because I wasn't so worried. I agree with what Charlie just said. I think the physicality, even just watching the warm-ups, actually, just the size of them, even though we're up in the heavens where we were kind of right, towards the back row, you could see the size difference. And I thought set pieces could be a slight issue if they start bombarding the box with crosses and that kind of thing. But I was looking at their two centre-halves thinking, oh my God, whoever's playing up top is going to be in for a long game because you're not going to win anything against those. But we did. Russo and Thomas and Galton, I know we're going to get to that front four or three, whatever you want to call it. They did. They dealt with them quite well. The physicality was there, and yeah, I said I had this game down as a win. It's West Ham I'm worried about, just because it being 4 days after, it's another away game, being so close after a physical Reading game, and I think as well the one worry I had actually was playing on that pitch. It being much. I know Leah is a good stadium with good facilities, but obviously the Medeski, the big, I don't even know what the capacity is, 25,000, something like that. Much bigger pitch, and you could tell towards the end of the game it started to tire us out a bit. So that was maybe a slight concern going in. But other than that, no, I was quietly confident going in. Like I said, I had us down as a win. We both said actually 3-1, so we were pretty bang on that one as well.
Didn't want any more goals anyway. So
no, do you know what's funny you say? Because me and Charlie both said actually when we scored the third, we were both. I think I said to Charlie and Mark at the time, I was like, "This is not going to end 3-1." This because there was so many at that point. There was so much action, and obviously it ended 3-1, so kind of helped ourselves. But no, I was confident in going down. But yeah, it was everything that Sky would have wanted. They moved the kickoff time because they wanted the fixture, and they got box office good football really.
Yeah, just you did mention the stadium there, Connor, and it'll be great to hear both of your thoughts on that. I don't know if either of you have been to stadium before, but what was it like to actually play in to actually be a fan in a big stadium? Because we went to Leicester and we seemed a little bit lost at Leicester, because it was a lovely stadium, not knocking that, but we were like way out the way in the men's stadium, and there was only 100 of us, for example. But was it very similar? At Reading, where our voices lost?
I think it was. It's interesting, isn't it? Like the novelty of them playing at a big stadium is a good experience for the players, I think, and fans to maybe go and see it. But I think you do lose a fair bit of atmosphere, and it's difficult to create it if there's only 1,000 fans there. What would help, I think, is if clubs had an allocated away section. I know there's been loads of chat about this. Not that it would make it then sound like there's 25,000 fans in there. But when you've got, I'd say there was quite a lot of Man United fans. I don't know if Connor agrees. It felt like when the goals went in, you could see there was a lot of Man United fans there compared to Reading fans. It might be because we're just used to making more noise and backing the team that way, but I just think more thought needs to go into that. There's a really good article about it today that someone wrote, and I can't remember the fella's name for the life of me. But I just think even if
Tom Goey, a better way.
Yeah, that's the guy. Even if you're just selling 1,000 tickets or 3,000 tickets, I think having an away allocation and also trying to keep that 3,000 fairly close together, because it was still fairly spread out as well across almost a whole side, which has an impact as well. I mean, I don't know what Connor thinks. I would rather teams played at Lee-sized stadiums and bits and pieces like that, Boreham Wood, Kings Meadow, and had a full ground. I think maybe that's nicer for the players.
And it was strange because obviously we had our allocated seats, but we didn't end up going there because we kind of stood there initially, and then there was a few Reading fans mixing in with us, and we thought we may as well just go to the back here because we're going to be stood up. We're obviously going to want to be stood up. We don't want to be in people's way, so we just there's a group of us that went to the back, and the other group joined us shortly later when the stewards obviously got involved. I'm sure you would have seen all the kind of back and forth on Twitter about that in the last 24 hours or so. But I'm not a fan. I said the people around me would have got sick of me moaning about. I must have complained about 5 or 6 times. I'm not a fan of it at all. It's a nice ground. Nothing against the ground. The pitch is well kept. It's a decent stadium. But I just not for me.
Yeah.
It seemed very. The only positive actually, and Charlie found much use of this when United were on the attack. You could pace up and down because there was that much room. You had a whole row to yourself. You could just pace up and down your row. So no, not a fan for me. It really drowned out the atmosphere because we obviously went right to the back. We were making the noises. I'm very interested to hear actually what the players thought of it, because obviously we sounded loud like we always do at the back, but I don't think it would have been that loud for them at the bottom because obviously they're much further away. So yeah, it's a decent ground. I think it affected us a little bit fitness wise because of the size of the pitch, but other than that, I don't want us to be rushing back to these size grounds anytime soon.
Would you say, Connor, as well, they talk about the product of women's football, and I think the product looks better on television and perhaps the fans that wouldn't normally come when the stadiums look fuller. 3,000 fans in a stadium for 6,000 looks a heck of a lot better than 3,000 fans in a stadium for 30, 40,000. You don't want the camera on empty seats, because all that does is it just creates an avenue for people to have a bit of a go. You want it to look like people are going and that it's full and that the crowd are noisy. And these big stadiums, you lose that from the point of view when you're literally there, but also I think when you're watching on television.
Yeah, 100%. I know, John, you want to move on, obviously, onto the positives from the game, but yeah, just my last thing on what Charlie just said there. That's exactly it, because I showed when I got home, the one advantage of it being early kickoff, I was home for 3 o'clock, which I never am on a match day. But I showed my mum and my nan when I got back, and they were like, "It's empty." I was like, "That actually is quite good. That's a good attendance." But because it's in such a massive ground, it looked so empty. Whereas if that's at, I don't know, Kings Meadow or Borehamwood or something like that, and you get 2-3K, it's going to look full. But because it's in a 25-30K stadium, it looks quite empty, and it's not good. It's not good viewing because, like Charlie just said there, it's open to choose my words carefully, the trolls, I guess, online that just like to have a bash at. Yeah, exactly that. That just like to have a bash at women's football for the sake of it. It's not good. I'm not a fan of it personally, but each of their own.
Yeah, it's a massive debate to be had, and a lot of fans think differently, don't they? And but yeah, let's move on to the actual game itself. And so, Charlie, I know you had some of these stats as well. 54% possession, 16 goal attempts, which was the same as Reading, by the way. 5 shots on goal, which was also the same as Reading. But I think the key difference was we had 344 passes to their 288, and 238 completed passes to their 164. So obviously, to me, there it does make it look like we didn't necessarily make our chances pay, because we didn't really take too many chances regarding like actually shots on goal. But we could have actually had even more shots on goal if that was the case. I mean, is that the way it kind of came across to you? We could have potentially used that possession and use them passing, use that passing a bit more dangerously.
I wouldn't say that, because I actually think we created a lot. I do think we created an awful lot of chances. I think we also, like that front four was. Then Skinner talked about it in his post-match interview as well. The fluidity of that front four. They don't stay in their position. Everyone was like, Tooney's down the middle, Roos's down the middle, Thomas is out on the right, Galton's out on the left. There was many occasions Galton went to the right, Thomas went down the middle, Roos went. It's very fluid and they know. They're getting an understanding of when to move. There was a chance in the first half, which we should have scored from. It was literally 3 on the keeper. It was a fantastic throw. I think it was Honor that played it through. And you got Martha Thomas, Russo, and Galton all running at the keeper. And we were all like, this is going. One of them scoring this. And we didn't. But it was the fluidity of it. So I wouldn't say that we didn't create the chance. I think we did. I think the goal attempts looks bad because we just didn't pull the trigger. Martha Thomas had some brilliant chances where she... in the second half, she was basically playing as a lone striker in the second half because we dropped off a fair bit as well. And we created chances, but we just don't pull the trigger. Jackie's another one. She doesn't like to shoot for whatever reason. Martha Thomas has got that at the minute where she just doesn't like to pull the trigger in and around it. And it's not going to be an issue in games where you're 3-4, 1 up or whatever. But in these tight games, which we're going to have, we're going to have a game in the next 6 games where we're going to have to dig deep and win it 1 or by a goal or so. We're going to have to start taking some of these chances. So yeah, that's a slight worry, but I think we did well with possession. I don't think it was wasteful because I think we created the chances. I just don't think we're very good at converting them at the moment.
I'd probably say as well, this game compared to Leicester, I think Leicester obviously we were more dominant across the game. But I think people were probably right when they talked about how many chances in that game we created from open play. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with scoring from set pieces. It's a massively important part of the game. But that's basically what we scored from against Leicester. Whereas today, it was 3 completely different types of goals. Okay, it was a headed goal from open play. So a really good cross from Hannah. It was a phenomenal through ball from Russo, a 1-on-1 with the keeper. And then it was a thunderbolt. And actually, I think we hit the woodwork 2 or 3 times and they don't go down as shots on target, I don't think. So we did really well. And Connor's quite right. I think it was just a little bit of the decision making at the end where like Martha was, maybe talk about Martha a bit more later, but she was amazing offensively and defensively. But she's one of those players where she's not selfish at all. And it almost felt like when she got into 3 or 4 positions where she could shoot or pass, she couldn't quite work out which one she would do. And I think that's sometimes what happens with a selfless player. they think to shoot and then think, oh no, I'll pass to someone else, and then the moment's gone, and then they have to shoot, and then it doesn't quite come off for them. But I think also, it, like Connor, if we'd taken chances more efficiently, it could have been a cricket score by half time. Like that's what it could have been. So that's the positive from it, is we were making so many chances from open play, all across the front four, which was a big difference to against the Leicester game, against a better side.
I think as well, I think someone just made the point in the comments. I think TJ just said it about Honor and Hannah. It wasn't just the front four. It was obviously it's a team game anyway, but offensively as a team, we progressed up the pitch very well. That midfield, Jackie and Katie did very, very well at moving the ball forward. You know, like I said, that front three were very.
Fluid.
It's the way, fluid. It's the way that Skinner wants to play in terms of Galton and Thomas weren't exactly wingers. They were cutting. Galton's goal comes from moving inside and letting Blundell go out on the overlap and putting the cross in. You know, so it's what we've spoken about all the time. It's a slight concern because it's our one way of playing. I think if teams can stop that, we don't seem to have a second. But in games like this, when you've got the two fullbacks on playing the way that they are, that front three just have license to do what they want. And, you know, they whether it was a tactical thing or not, but Tooney had a lot of space. She's very good at finding the space anyway, but she had a lot of space in the middle to pick her own pass. And it was just a good example, exactly like someone just said there, of Skinnerball, as people like to call it. It was exactly the type of goals that we want to be seeing. It's just to get to that next... No, I was just going to finish up by saying to get to that next level, to get to the real top, that's where I know obviously, you know, Chelsea and City are scraping by 1-goal margins at the moment, but usually they'd be putting, you know, 4, 5, 6 past these kind of teams in these games. That's the next level we need to get to. At the moment, I don't really care. Just get the 3 points. We could win every game 1-0 for all I care, as long as we get the 3 points now. But to get to that very next level, we just need to start taking some of these chances and just have the confidence to shoot. I don't know why we're trying to walk it in sometimes, because it's detrimental in tighter games.
Just on that, I mean, with Chelsea being as good as they are, don't forget they've been together and played for Emma Hayes, and Emma Hayes has started to play for like 10 years. Obviously, not all the players have been there for 10 years, but when they do their summer transfers, it's quite minimal now, isn't it? So they've got that consistency there, and you know, we've all of a sudden we just had a brand new manager. Like 6 players leave, a few players join, a completely new style of play, and we're trying to cram it all in and start to get to this position in such a short time. 3 points in 3 points off fourth I think is really commendable at this time of the season. So, you know, I agree. Kind of with a bit more practice, we can see a little bit more goals from them, can't we? You did mention about that front three being so fluid. Charlie, I'll throw you in here as well. I want to put Tooney in there and make it a front four. I know Skinner always talks about we've got to judge the opposition as well, but can you see a change in that front four now with how well they played on the weekend?
It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare, isn't it? A good nightmare for Mark. I think at the moment, no. I think you would leave it as it is unless someone's feeling fatigue. He took Russo after about 70 minutes. Now that's telling me that he wants her ready to go on Wednesday for her to come off at that point. If he's going to change it, I would bet it's Brune coming in if she's fit, but then that forces Russo out wide, and then does that sort of lose then a little bit of her impetus and what makes her so good? I've thought about this like constantly. That front four have done nothing these past 2 games for me to think there's any reason for them not to start.
Yeah.
Is that a good diplomatic answer? Because I don't really. Like if you said, he's going to start Brune and he's going to drop Thomas and start Brune, I'd go, yeah, fine, brilliant. That's just another world-class player, not a problem. But I just think at the moment, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is what I say.
I thought you were just going to just say they've done nothing then and end it there. I thought, where are we going with this?
No, they've done nothing to warrant not being selected.
But you can say the same with the midfield. You know, like we've constantly got 1 or 2 world-class midfielders on the bench, but they've done nothing wrong either. But it's the fact that whoever is playing is doing so well. So I think it's a great problem to have, isn't it? And I thoroughly agree. I mean, a lot of us want to see more of Fuso, we want to see more of Hansen, but not at the detriment to the players. If we can play 16 players.
It's Lanzell, I think, has put in the comments about Tooney and Russo need to be central. I would agree with that. And I also, for me, I think always those two need to play. I think their link-up play is amazing. You can tell they're absolute best friends because you can see how well they link on the pitch, and I do think that's critical. I probably wouldn't change those two ever if it was up to me.
It's the classic example of if like you just said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like there's no reason, bar fatigue or injury, to drop that current 11. Obviously we haven't got a game the weekend coming. Obviously it's West Ham and there's a gap until the Everton game, so there's no reason why we can't go full out against West Ham on Wednesday night. But the whole team offensively, like I said, the two fullbacks play a good part. Zellum and Jackie actually worked a lot better than what they were at the start of the season, because now they've got that understanding of when one goes, the other one will sit. Whereas at the start of the season, they were either both sitting or both going, and we was leaving us exposed. Now one will sit, one will go, and I think Charlie, you might have said it to me. Someone said it to me in the ground. I think it might have been you. After about 30 minutes or so, we had an attack down the right. I think Honor got it, and it must have been yourself, Charlie. Said, look at how many players we've got in the box. There was about 6 or 7 players bombing forward to get in the middle. Now you go back, under the rough run in kind of October, November, there was only one person or 2 people in the middle. Now we're throwing, the midfielders are getting in there. You've got the front 3, you've got the other fullback on the far side getting in. And that's
John's inverted fullbacks there.
I'll get started on them. Get Andrew Wall involved. Yeah. No, seriously, with them inverted fullbacks, I've been on about it since December. I'm not going to talk about this game because I've already seen the goals, so I'm not going to say. But I was speaking to a UEFA B coach who started talking about inverted fullbacks, and my face just lit up. But yeah, sorry to jump in there. Carry on, sorry.
No, it's a good problem to have. I think Charlie got me on a challenge yesterday, trying to pick our strongest 11. That took all night. That did.
I literally WhatsApped him and said, "What's your starting 11 now?" And he just got back to me like, "What are you doing?" It's 10.
It's tough, but at the moment, like you said, why would you take anyone out? I think the only one that comes into that whole team, obviously barring the centre backs aside, is probably Ladd into the midfield. I think that's the only one that walks straight back in. Other than that, why would you drop any of that front? Like I said, none of them have done. Thomas could maybe have scored at the weekend, but if you take her out and stick someone in there who's maybe not as understanding of the role and it's not as fluid as that, then that takes away. And do we score elsewhere? It's all about balance. You don't need 11 world-class players to do, I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. You need an absolute balanced 11 and people that understand the roles. I'd take that any day over just 11 names, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you what, though, Connor, if Jackie and Katie do continue to have that partnership, Hayley Ladd might not come back in again, because we saw at the start of the season, Hayley, she wasn't first choice. She worked her way in. She was first choice in cup games, because I remember Ladd and Boris started the cup games, and it was Katie and Jackie starting the league games. Now that they have found that partnership, if it's working, then there's a debate to be had there as well, isn't there? But we'll move on to a few of the goals, or the goal that didn't stand. You guys in the stadium, did you have a clear view of it? What was people saying?
We'd celebrated straight away. We all knew it was in from where we were. It was so clear.
I think someone got I think Karen or someone got a video of it, and the whole stadium was like applauding this wonderful goal. It's just one of those bizarre things, isn't it? Like, there's been obviously lots of talk about the linesman, but then perhaps he was just looking down the line, perhaps, rather than at the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the referee couldn't see, are they in a poor position? It was just, I think it's the nature of the goal for me. I've said to you before, it was how good that goal was. It was perfection. And for her not to have that is criminal. That's the thing for me. It's the nature of that goal. And it was miles over.
Yeah.
It was miles over.
Do you know the gutted thing as well? It was almost a carbon copy of her goal against Reading on the first game of the season. That kind of obviously from the opposite side this time, the cutting inside and the shot. Obviously, this one was a little bit more central in terms of off the bar, but to have that taken away. If you actually have a look at the Sky footage on her at the end of the game, I don't know whether she was tired or what, but she just looked deflated. Now, don't get me wrong, she had an amazing performance as well. She deserved that goal to top off her performance, but it doesn't take away from her performance. Yeah, she'd have wanted that goal, but it doesn't take away from her performance. I actually just quite liked, we said it backstage before, the reaction, even though we scored 20 seconds later, and it's a brilliant strike from Russo again, by the way. Even though we'd still scored, like I said, Katie, Leah, Ella too, they were all straight away over to the refs and over to the officials, like, what's going on here? Because, we may not have scored that if Russo, beautiful strike that she's got on her. If that doesn't go in, say we draw the game 2-2 or something, that could have cost us. But luckily, we've got talented players. And that's what I like, that mentality afterwards. Although it's gone in, still make a point about it, because that could have cost us. Luckily, it didn't.
And also, I think it was like Russo's celebration was understated, I think, because she knew. The players were around Honor, who Honor also celebrated for, which shows you her character. The highlight was, though, John, which I spotted straight away. I think I grabbed Connor. Look, when Honor's goal wasn't given, Tooney was fuming. Yeah, absolutely fuming. She was the nearest to that linesman. And then when Russo's goal came in, she just turned around to him and gave him the absolute big I am. Really went in at him. Really went in. It was the hidden highlight for me. I love that. It shows their mentality. Yeah, shows their mentality. How dare you take that away from our player? How dare you? It's a bit of a siege mentality, which is like old school Man United. Everyone's against us, so we're just going to score a second worldie straight after. Thanks very much. But it was really, like, you can see, like, our players, most of our players, apart from Russo, stopped, celebrated. The Reading players stopped because they knew it had gone in. Thankfully, Russo didn't. England's starting number one striker, but thankfully she didn't, and then she scored a worldie of a goal. But I don't think I'll ever get over that. Just so upset for her. She's done now. She can run against West Ham instead.
Well, that's it, and obviously she got the goal. Everyone knows it went over the line, and hopefully that'll force the FA's hand a little bit more as well going forward. But absolutely right. Talk to me about the other goals then, because there's another player that played, one of our favourites, Leah Galton. I've always said from day one, from that first season, the player. I never say it's my favourite player, because I've got to a point very quickly in my Man United women's career that I don't have a favourite player. I don't have a favourite player, because if I watch someone do an interview, she's my favourite player. If I watch someone play a game, then she becomes my favourite player. But I've always stuck by, and I still stand by this now, the player that excites me the most when she's on the ball is Leah Galton. And obviously she got 2 goals this week. Just what are your thoughts on that one then, Connor? Describe those 2 goals for me. Was it coming? Was it easy goals, hard goals? How was it? What was it all about?
Well, the first one obviously was within 4.5 minutes, and we absolutely battered them in the first 5-10 minutes. Like Charlie said earlier, we hit the bar within 17 seconds. We absolutely battering them in the first 5 minutes or so. And it's a typical Skinner goal. It's the kind of goal I said before when we did the show on New Year's Day, in terms of the kind of goal that Skinner wants. It's gone out to the fullback, obviously Blundell in this case. It's a little chip cross. It's a brilliant header into the far corner. The second goal is all in the pass. Russo's ball to it. I know you don't like comparisons with other teams, but it is very, very similar to the Miedemar one against us. The pass, obviously, the Blackstenians scored against us to draw that one. It was very similar to that. It's right on the edge. Galton's right on the edge of offside. And it's, composure to take it around the keeper. I know she just kind of lay on her back, after that, kind of rested up. But yeah, she had a really good game. It was 2 goals. Like I said, the second one is all, it's in the past, but you've got to score it. We had another 1-on-1 later in the game, as we've already mentioned, that we didn't score. So just because you get into those positions, you're not automatically guaranteed a goal. So the fact that Leah had that composure to go around the keeper and and slot it in, it's good for her. And it's actually good for her to see her playing with confidence again, because obviously I was very sceptical at the start of the season. I was probably more critical than other people of her. That I didn't think that everyone was screaming for her to be starting and all this, and I just didn't feel that was right at the time. But now, like I said, how can you take her out? Because the form and the link up that they've got between them. Yeah, it was well taken goals. It's good to see her back amongst the goals, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah. She's got a bit of fire in her belly back as well, Connor. I felt like earlier in the season, obviously she always talks about Casey as having restarted her career and her love of football. And I think she did an interview not long ago with MUTV where she said she spoke quite honestly and said she found it really tough. She wasn't saying anything bad about Mark. She was just saying that Casey was important to her and she understood what her job was. And then someone else came in who wasn't Casey, and it probably wouldn't have mattered who it was at all. And she found it tough. And it just felt like at the start of the season, her body language was quite negative as well. And I don't mean having tantrums, but she just didn't look like the same player. But the last few weeks, she's got something about her, like having a go at the referee. This isn't right. She went over to the lines person at one point. You're not making the right decisions. So she's fighting as well for the team, whereas she maybe perhaps wasn't doing that earlier in the season because she wasn't sure what her role is. And now her role is just moving across that front three, getting herself into really good positions. And I think she scored 6 goals now. I think she scored 6, having scored none in the first. I think she scored 1 against Birmingham earlier in the season, and then went through a real rough patch of not getting much of anything. And now just seems to be scoring for fun. But she's getting in phenomenal positions all the time. Like the front 3-4 always are. But like I said, she looks like the player that we saw last season, I think.
She could have had a hat-trick if she could held her run a little bit as well. I think the chance that we were referring to earlier where we had 3 on the keeper, I actually think Martha Thomas would have passed to her, but Galton was about 2 yards offside. And I think that's why Thomas did ultimately go for the shot. At the time, I think I said to Charlie and the people around with, if you're going to shoot when you've got a 3-on-1, you've got to score. And obviously Thomas didn't. But looking back, Galton was about 2 yards offside, so I can see why she didn't pass. But, she could have had a hat-trick. She had a couple of chances in the second half as well. So it's good that... And she's got a really, really good link-up with Blundell as well on that left-hand side. Like I said, they know when to hold. Hannah knows when to go on the overlap or when to go inside. So it's just... It just looks a well-balanced team, and I think Leah's a key part of that. I said in the City game, obviously the last reaction that I was on, obviously with you, Charlie, that after the City loss 1-0 in the league a few weeks ago, that Galton was a massive miss on that side. Because it's just a huge gap when you don't have somebody that understands that position. And I think Leah does understand it now, and like I say, good link up with Hannah behind her as well.
Some comments in the comments that I'll try and bring into the show shortly, but just on all this, it's really getting me excited because you've got Leah on the left who's doing really well, who's on form. We know how well Tuni's played this season. The stats are amazing, and the confidence that she's had with going to the Lionesses and the link-up play with Russo. And Charlie, I know you dropped it out there. She'll be playing for England more often, Russo. And I think Martha Thomas has probably been the most underrated signing that we've made. It's absolutely great from what I've seen, especially lately as well. So, that front 4, if they can continue that relationship and that chemistry, someone mentioned in the comments, that's what it's all about. I think that I've heard a saying a little while ago that the manager is there to get you to the final third. So he kind of teaches you how to, get the ball from the back to the front in and around the penalty box, and then all of a sudden it's down to the individual brilliance of the players to kind of make that shot or make that killer pass to find someone, and that creativity. And at the moment there's no one better than like Tuni, Galton and Russo putting them away, and this season as well, Martha Thomas. It's really exciting to see. So yeah, brilliant. And obviously we'll have some midfielders coming back. So who was it that mentioned Jane Moore? So when do you think Jane Moore will play? Do you think she'll have a chance at Old Trafford? Where do you get her in? Because it's tough, isn't it?
Just to play devil's advocate, I don't think she plays a single game this season. Just to throw it out there, I don't think she does, because if Ladd comes back, this is providing Ladd comes back in the next week or so, by the way.
Ladd was doing the warm-ups though, wasn't she? Ladd was doing the warm-ups with them at Reading.
Exactly. So if Ladd comes back, where does Jade fit in? Because you're not going to drop your captain, obviously, with Zellerman there. Jackie's playing her way back into form. You've got Barisa who can play there. If Ladd comes back fully fit, where do you fit her in? So I don't actually think she plays unless we get a load of injuries in midfield, because I just don't see how you slot her in, or unless we get a load of injuries at centre half. Obviously, I know we've got 2 out at the moment. If we get another one and Ladd or Jade, one of them have to drop back, that's the only other way I can see it. But I can't see it in that midfield personally.
Yeah, I don't think she would have been. I think, and again, what do I know really? But I assume that when they signed her, she wouldn't have been told you're going to start every game.
Yes.
I think she probably knows that this is probably her last move, isn't it? What is she, 31, 32,
something like
perhaps?
That, yeah.
So she'll know that she's there for backup, just like Diane will have known that's what she's coming also down to having to play all the time, but they will have known that's what they've come for. So I don't think she's the sort of player with the mentality that's going to have issue with that. She'll just be ready when we need her. I think if we'd gone a bit further in the cup competitions, unfortunately, I hate to bring that up, she probably would have played more of a part then. I think Connor's right. I think if Hayley's fit and we're going to play with that combative holding midfielder, it's going to be her every time. She's the long-term proposition, that Hayley Ladd's the long-term player for the next 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, let's not forget that these players were brought in January, weren't they? So, they were here to bolster the squad when every team gets injuries, and they're great players to have there, they really are, but they probably wouldn't have got that game time without the injuries. And, I'll probably throw Senior in there from what I've seen of this season so far. I didn't want to break up the whole Russo, Tooney and Galton combination because it was working. It really was. And from what we've seen so far, we want to continue that. But what a great addition that we have got, that if we do need a combative midfielder, that we have got Jade there. Diane's, we've called upon Diane and she's played really well. And obviously if Russo isn't available, then Senior can play. So they're good backups for me. And I think that's probably, I don't know if that's the reason why they was brought in, but it's a good deal to bring in, by the way. I will say that, for a January transfer window, I think there were some great signings there, but I don't want to break up what we have got. As someone mentioned earlier, if you stop broke, don't fix it. We have just got a little bit of time just to talk a little bit about the defence before we move on to our thoughts on West Ham. Connie, you did have a slight concern regarding player there from the back. Sometimes it works, and when it works, it's beautiful. I'm jumping up there saying, yes, get us taught them this, but obviously when it doesn't work, I'm like, oh, dear me. But I don't know. Talk me through it, Connor.
The thing is, it always feels worse when you're watching it live, playing out from the back. But when you actually watch the game back, they didn't actually cause that many problems from playing out from the back. Obviously, their goal came from that. But I think that's just a lapse in concentration from Hannah. I think you can probably see what she's trying to do in terms of running it across, maybe playing it into Jackie, but just didn't release the ball. And you can't give Rose that opportunity because she will score. But no, I've not got an issue with playing out from the back because I think we've got competent players to do it. It's just a bit shaky when you're watching it against a team that press, and Reading did press a fair bit, especially in the first half. That's what made it such an entertaining game, because it was very end-to-end and a bit like that. So, yeah, I think the defence played okay. I don't think any of them... Honor was fantastic on that right-hand side. I think the other three were just, if you're giving them kind of scores, you're probably looking at 6s and 7s. I don't think you'd go any higher than that. I've got slight concern over the two centre-backs. I actually don't think they're bad centre-halves. I just don't think they're good together. I think if you put Mannion or Millie Turner next to either of them, I think they'll be brilliant. I just don't think those two can play together yet. I don't know. Other people might tell me differently. I don't think they're bad defenders. It's just sometimes you don't have that partnership with somebody. But yeah, I just think they were okay. They dealt with everything that Reading had. We did very well defending set pieces, considering the height difference. I think it was in the second half. They had a few free kicks on the edge. Their number 5 Evans came on the back post. I think Katie. I think Katie went to marker, and I was looking at her going, no. That's not a good match. Stick Maria or Diane on her. But no, it was. They just played okay. I don't think there were any worse than that. I don't think they're any better than that for me.
I kind of felt, I don't know, I'm jumping in, John and Con. I just felt like a little bit, by the time the second half had come around, Reading sort of had their number with, I don't know if it's Deanne Rose or Deanna Rose, so I apologise for that. She's really quick. So what they realised is you didn't need to play off the shoulder of Diane and Maria to get past them. So they just played the ball high and over the top, and she could just beat them for pace. Now, luckily, like Honor was having a barnstorm, was sweeping bits and pieces up. But I think they found that quite difficult to handle. And I think what we're missing in the middle is that pace. I think Aoife Mannion doesn't get enough credit for how quick she is. And the same with Millie Turner. And I think they found that tough, sometimes a little bit tentative when the ball was coming over the top, letting it bounce. Perhaps feeling the occasion a bit, knowing it's 6 or 7 cup finals does up the ante, doesn't it, when it feels like that. What I will say is Mary flipping Earps, unbelievable. If we're talking about the defence, she's a key part of that. She's playing without her 2 first choice centre backs in front of her. And again, obviously it's having Diana Marie as backup isn't a poor thing, is it? Some clubs don't have that. But Mary Earps was unreal. She made a double save when it was 3-1 with about 10 minutes to go, where if they just scored from that, it would have been squeaky bum time, wouldn't it? And there was also one where she made, I think Martha Thomas got it off the line, but if you look at it back, she actually makes a save with her leg first that slows the ball down, like just unreal, Mary. And I think often that goes under the radar. I think when goalkeepers make a mistake, you hear about it forever. And when they perform like she performed, she's just done her job. And that's probably what she's thinking. But she was phenomenal yesterday. She was probably up there for player of the match for me, alongside Galton and Russo. Probably Mary would be up there in the top 3. I thought she was brilliant.
I think she's had a great season, the best season that she's had in a United shirt. You know, very rarely she does make. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned player of the match. Let's throw it out there. Start off for yourself, Connor.
Do you know what? It's obvious to go for Leah or to Russo, maybe just because they're the goal scorers. I'm actually going to go outside the box and say Honor, because as Charlie just said there, she swept up. She had to, because the ball was going over the top quite a lot, and her recovery pace was brilliant to not only do that, but in the second half she added the composure on the break that we needed. When she was bringing the ball out, she had the ability to beat one and then hold on to it and play it through midfield as well. So I think she was defensively excellent. As we all know, she should have had a goal as well to top it off. And a lot of the attacks came down that side, particularly in the first half. You know, Tooney was moving out to the right. Obviously, Thomas was out there. So, yeah, I'm actually going to go outsider here and say Honor, but I can see why people would go someone like Leah as well, because, you know, she was excellent.
Charlie?
I'm going to go... See, I've made my question myself now. I was sure, and then I've just talked about Mary Earps. No, I'm going to go with Russo, I think. I think she held the ball up well. She did a phenomenal assist. She moved the ball really well. She knew when to come to collect it. She laid the ball off really well. She scored a brilliant goal when everyone else had pretty much switched off. I don't mean like not bothered, but they were frustrated about what was happening. And she just had in the frame of mind of, right, I'll just get the ball and I'll do something with it. And I think we had less impetus in attack when she came off. I think you could tell the difference. I'm glad she did, because I want to flip for Wednesday, but I think I'll go with Russo. But you could have, like, Connor could have said any player or 8 or 9 other players, and I would have gone, yes, I completely agree with you. I'll be easily swayed because there were so many good individual performances amongst what was a very good team performance. But I'll go Alessia Russo for me.
And I think the people in the comments looks like they agree with you as well. So yeah, great to hear. Yeah, I'm going to move on to West Ham. I'm just going to go through the league table, because I think it's really exciting. Because if we get through this West Ham game, then we're at Old Trafford against Everton. Everton's not doing great as well. You know, we always hear, you know, Skinner say take it one game at a time, and Conor, you're saying every game's a cup final, and it really is. But I can't help but think, you know, this game really does mean something. You know, if we can really win this one, all of a sudden City might start thinking, you know what, maybe United won't drop any points, and maybe it'll get in their heads. And let's see. So we've got Arsenal, obviously 17 games on 40 points. Chelsea 15 games, 35 points. Then we're third, 16 games on 31. And then this is where it gets a little bit exciting, because we've got Spurs on the same amount of games as us, 3 points behind. City, 15 games, 5 points behind on 26. And then you got West Ham and Reading underneath them. So that defeat that Spurs has, do you think that's kind of ended it for them? Because you can't expect them to get too many points from the so-called Big Four now, can you?
No, and I really wanted Spurs to win that, because they're not a threat to us, in my opinion, because they're not going to beat Chelsea twice. They're not going to. I can't see them getting anything from the Arsenal game either. So they were always out of it for me. So I really wanted them to win yesterday, because I think City, I can imagine now, will go on a winning run till the end of the season. So that heaps the pressure back on us. Look, I mean, ultimately, I think someone made the point in the comments earlier that we need to stop looking at the other teams now and just look at ourselves. We look at it as 6 cup finals now. Obviously, it was 8 a couple of weeks ago. We've won 2 of them, 6 to go. Go out there with the mentality we've got to win them all, because if we start looking at different, and I'm you know, I'm a part of this in terms of, you know, looking at the run-ins and looking at where we could drop points and where they could drop and whatever. I think we just need to focus on ourselves. Look, we've got West Ham next. That's win that, and then once the West Ham game's gone, then we look at Everton. Let's focus on that one. I think we have to look at it as cup finals, because if we start looking at all City might drop here and we might win this, but then drop here, I think it's going to get a bit overcomplicated, certainly for my my simple mind. So I think I think we just focus on ourselves. I think Spurs are out of it anyway, but it's a slight concern looking at City, contradictory to what I just said, because I think they will go on a winning run to the end of the season, but there's no reason why we can't do that as well.
Go on, Charlie, what's your thoughts on the running?
I think the most important thing is it's in our hands. That's the most important thing, is we've got that 2-point cushion and a superior goal difference at the moment. So superior goal difference at the moment, which is good. I have complete faith that if our players, game by game, if they play to their maximum capability and work as hard as they possibly can, which I've no doubt that they will, that we can't win and get something from every game. If you said at the start of the season, do you want Chelsea or Arsenal to win the league? I'd hate both, but I would have said Arsenal. But now what I kind of want is for Arsenal to drop some points. So that perhaps Chelsea will be a little bit hungover when it comes to that last game of the season. But again, that's relying on other things. We've just got to compartmentalise. That's what Mark says, isn't it? We prepare for this game. I suppose a plus is we haven't got, obviously apart from the West Ham game, we haven't then got lots of midweek fixtures because we weren't crying off in January because Sam Kerr was at the Asia Cup. I mean because they had COVID. I didn't mean that. So bits and pieces like that might help us. So we'll have a week to prepare for games. And that can be our primary focus. Not, we've got this game midweek and then we've also got the game on Sunday. We can just focus on a game-by-game basis. There's no reason, if we don't do it, it's just down to us because we're not chasing. We're 2 points ahead, superior goal difference. I think we can do it.
I think it just shows how great a job everyone's done to kind of put us in this position with just a few games to go, and the belief that we've got now to get that top 3 compared to where it was back in August, you know, where a lot of people were saying, let's just play for 4th. Our aim is stability. If we get 5th, not the end of the world. All of a sudden now we'll be disappointed if we don't get 3rd, and that just shows how far we've come in such a short time. Would you agree with that, Connor?
Yeah, and I think as well, the big difference between now and last season, there's fans in the ground. So we're not going to let what happened last season, the fan people will underestimate it, but we've got, after this Reading away, most of our fixtures are at home. Obviously, bar last game of the season and Villa, I think, are only 2 away games after West Ham. So, you know, we've got a few home games in there. Obviously, the Old Trafford one as well. The fans are going to be mightily important in terms of pushing that team over the line. But it is testament to how far we've come. You know, we'll be at the start of the season. I remember my very first show on this channel. Everyone was in the comments going, we've appointed Mark Skinner. We're going downhill. We're going to finish 6th and everything else. I remember that show so well because everyone was so negative about the appointment and that we were going backwards. And now look at we're in the potential.
And the transfer of players. So obviously, we lost a few players, brought a few players in, and you're absolutely right, Connor. And they've shown that they're the 3rd best team in the league this season.
And not only that, if you take away laps, just one. I know it's the same for every team, but for us in particular, you take away 1 or 2 lapses in concentration, it's an extra 4 points. You know, you're talking 30 seconds if at most at Spurs. You're talking 10 minutes at Everton. You're talking 10 minutes at Arsenal. You only need one of them, and we're right behind Chelsea, and we're talking about winning the title. So it's such fine margins this season. Like you said, the only teams we've lost to are the top 2. Well, obviously City as well, if you count them in there as well, down in 5th. But I think it's really tough. Like I said, I just think this season compared to last, because everyone keeps saying that, we were in this position last season and injuries hindered us. Obviously now we've got a few injuries as well. Yeah. But fans weren't around last season. Obviously watching from home, it's slightly different. So yeah, I think the fans will play a huge part as well.
Yeah, I agree with that absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, Connie, you did mention at the start of the show the West Ham one is a game that worries you the most because it's 2 games in 3 or 4 days. But West Ham are in the same boat. I think they've had 3 games in a very short amount of time as well. So I don't know. I'm quite excited about this. I know it's a long journey there. The players all have a long journey. It's an evening kick-off midweek. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit hopeful. I messaged a few Villa fans. Sorry, a few Villa fans. Same colour a few West Ham fans. To see if they're going down, because I want to speak to them before the game to kind of see what their thoughts are on this, because I'm a little bit more confident than Connor. Touch wood. I can see us like doing that this momentum. That momentum that we had going into Christmas, and we won like 7 games on the trot. I could feel something like this coming again. So, Charlie, are you feeling that momentum? Are you feeling that vibe going into this game?
Yeah. I feel if we don't win, it'll be an upset. The only reason we don't win that game is if they work harder than us. I think that's the only reason we don't win it. Because you look at West Ham, they're an interesting side. So they got turned over 3-0 by Leicester. Bizarre. They lost to Chelsea on Thursday, scraped past Birmingham on Sunday, like Birmingham, who everyone's turning over bar Arsenal. I just think from a fan point of view, and you see it when you talk to people at the stadium, people before the games, we just want it so much. You want it so much that everything's a worry. Literally everything is a worry. What if this happens? What if that happens? But I would, like I said, I think the only way we don't win that game is if they work harder than us. And I just don't. I've never watched Man United women and thought they haven't worked hard enough. So I don't see why they would start not working hard enough now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think player for player, individually we're better everywhere, and as a team, as a collective, we're better. And we've got a bit of the siege mentality at the moment. I think it's like we're all in it together.
Red wave.
Yeah, red wave. Yeah, that's what it feels like. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kind of your thoughts on that, like regarding like momentum, because it's a massive thing when it comes into this kind of the run into the season, and can you see it be like momentum just pushing us over the line now, or at least getting us to the final game of the season? Which again, we didn't get to the final game last season because it was all like Arsenal's hands, and can you see it just being now, just like not necessarily actually the opposite to it being like a slog, like an actual, real good run.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not laughing at your question. It's Benny's comment. I shouldn't have read that before you asked the question. What was the question? I got distracted by that comment. You were talking about. What were you talking about? Momentum and the running, mate.
I'll just see the comments. Yeah, just the importance of momentum, and have we got that now?
Yes, I think we have now. If you'd have asked me 2 weeks ago, obviously different story, because we hadn't won in that whole month of February, did we? So, it's slightly different picture now. Like I said, we've got the tough. I'm not looking at it again. We've got the tough fixtures that's out the way, bar the last game of the season. If you want to talk about the big 3, if you want to call them that. Mm-hmm. The thing, it's going to be difficult for the players, because the players are going to be well aware, and in women's football more than the men's side, they'll be well aware on social media what the talk is. They'll be well aware of what the conversations are around the ground. I imagine if we go, win the next couple, the questions will be put to Skinner as well, in terms of the Champions League is in your hand. The pressure will really start to ramp up, and I think that's my slight concern with the Old Trafford game.
I know what his answer would be there, though. I just know it's like it was always in our hands. Pressure with Man United. We want these big games. That's what we're here for. That's why I'll come back from. That's why I'll come back from the United States of America to have these big games.
I think as well. I think Charlie said earlier as well. I think as fans, it's going to seem worse than it probably is. We're going to be nervous in every single game, regardless, just because it's. I'm glad we're in our position in terms of it's on us, rather than the chasing team. But at the same time, we're going to feel everything. Every chance that West Ham have, they could be on the halfway line and we're going to be nervous because everything's going to feel on a knife edge.
Isn't it great, though, kind of the fact that we've put ourselves in this kind of position? I know it's still early. I know it's only mid-March, but it is actually there. All we have to do is just play at our best, and then we'll go into our final game of the season in our hands.
I'm not looking at that.
Do you know what I thought was really important from the Reading game is that literally throughout I think someone talked about it in the comments. I can't remember who mentioned it. Throughout the season, and we talk about these 4 draws, 2 of them against 10 players, and these things, where when we've conceded from a winning position, mentally, from a mentality point of view, it's not been great. Whereas against Reading, Reading scored from an error, which is worse. I think an individual error feels horrible for that player. How they reacted to that, like I looked at Connor and Connor, it'd be fine. There's no way we're not going to score again. And they went and did that, and you could see in the players, it wasn't this, heads down.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it had been for a little while. It just got right back at it, which is an important shift, particularly at this point in the season. So that makes me feel better as well, I think.
That's the main thing. I'm almost glad in some ways, looking ahead, obviously, because I know we're talking briefly about West Ham here. Looking ahead to West Ham, that kind of fills me with a bit of confidence that we slipped up a little bit against Reading. The fact the mentality is still strong in the fact that, yes, we had a brilliant start, absolutely battered them. I think I said to you, Charlie, at the time, how are we level in this? We've absolutely battered them, and they've just scored one goal because we, lapse in concentration from Hannah. But, we'd absolutely battered them. But the players didn't... said the heads didn't go down. 10 minutes later, we're back ahead again. We carried on that kind of attacking football that we'd seen for the first 15 minutes or so. So that fills me with a bit of positive thinking in terms of going into West Ham. Because if we go a goal down against West Ham, I think if we'd have said that in February, it would have been, how are we going to react now? But now I think we can probably... I don't want us to, but we could afford maybe to drop a goal or so, and I don't think the players' mentality would change. I think they've got the belief in themselves. Skinner talks about it a lot in terms of the belief in themselves. They shouldn't be looking for outside factors, but be getting confidence. They know how good they are. And I think that will be key. That's going to be, I think Charlie's right. Player for player, you're looking at the last game, maybe Chelsea, we're better than every opposition we've got. But that doesn't guarantee you wins. Just because you're the better team on paper doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win. You've got to go out there and, Stu talks about it a lot, doesn't he? Player application.
But I think confidence and mentality does, and that's what I'm saying. The more we keep winning, the more they might build that confidence, and that's what I think that might do it.
Yeah, I'm going to play devil's advocate though. The more confident you get, could that be that also could have a negative thing in terms of you get too complacent and you start rolling into games thinking, it's only West Ham again. We'll beat these. I don't know.
I don't think he'll let them. I don't think he'll let them do that. You're talking about the players or us as fans, or a bit of both?
The players, really, to be honest.
I just don't. I don't think he'll let that happen. That's the impression I get of him and Martin. I just don't think they'll let that happen. And I think also we've had some new signings, but remember last year we were in a better position after Christmas. We were top of the table, having not lost a game. So a lot of those players have felt that was worse to miss out on it from that position last year. They felt that. I think we maybe talked about this before, like it matters to them. They're not doing this for a paycheck. They just want to play in the Champions League. And I think he's got their mentality right. I think they're with him, and I don't think he'll let, maybe I don't know the man, but I really like him. I don't think he'll let them walk into a game thinking they've won it before they've started.
I need to stop reading some of these. I need to stop reading some of these comments before I go to speak. It's really putting me off.
It's like your two's hairline, not mine.
I can't remember what I was going to say now. I was going to say something about West Ham.
I'm 10 years older than you, Connor, so I'm okay. What's your excuse? I'm just happy that I'm not grey. Every time I have a haircut, I look on the floor to see if I can see any grey.
What do you mean? What's my excuse? I thought you were going to back me up then.
That's not my name.
No, I was just going to bring it back briefly to West Ham because we've seen them obviously once this season, John, when we went to watch them against Villa, and I don't think they were anything spectacular. I don't. Looking back, I think I've obviously got this as the game where we drop points, but looking at their team and I'm just looking at it now. There's nobody that I'm sure they're all quality players. To be playing in the WSL, you've got to be a good player anyway. I'm not I'm saying that they're awful players, but I think I'm just looking at potentially where they could cause us harm. And I'm not too sure that they're playing a back three, back five, whatever way you want to call it, for the majority of their games. So, that's a slight difference in terms of the system, whether we set up slightly differently, because Skinner obviously always talks about playing for the game, not play. Skinner has been very adaptable in his system. So whether we change things up a little bit, I don't know. But I'm just looking at their team thinking, I can't see them causing too many issues. I don't know. I think you two have spurred my confidence a little bit, because at the start of the like I said before, I was thinking this might be the game where we drop points potentially, but I'm
I
not
think
too
if
sure.
it was a normal Sunday and both teams have had like a week's rest and, we've got to go there. Well, don't get it wrong, it could still happen now. Absolutely, it could. But whose shoes would you rather want to be in? And usually that's your answer, on like, who's, we should be favourites, we should be confident, because I wouldn't want to be West Ham at the moment playing us. So I'm sure they'll be, more nervous than us, but that doesn't mean that I'm counting my chickens. It doesn't mean that I know that West Ham can't beat us, because I know that they could.
I didn't realize as well that I think somebody said it in the stadium to me at the time as well. And obviously, John, you said earlier in the show that they've played 3 games in. This will be a week for them, because they played in the 10th against Chelsea, the 13th, and obviously the 16th. So they've played 3 or 4 games, or it will be when they come to play us in 10 days or so. So that could also be a positive on our side as well, potentially.
They've also got that quarter final against Ipswich on Sunday. They might have their eye on that, because they might be thinking we've got a semi-final here. Yeah. So they've also got that to think about.
Good point, absolutely, yeah. Everyone's putting their predictions in, so TJ saying 2-0. We haven't even asked for them yet, but I'm obviously getting bored and I want us to wrap up the show, so predictions. No, thank you very much. Lots of people watching today, so thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Drop a few comments in, and we'll give you a bit of a roundup of what to expect for the rest of the show shortly. So we've got TJ saying 2-0, Sang saying 3-1 United. And then he changed points. I don't know. Oh yeah, that's better now. 3-1. Yeah, I get what he's done there. And Benny's almost as optimistic as me. I think you know what? I think if we get on the front foot, I think it might be a little bit trigger happy. You never know. So I'm going to say, I think I said 3-1 on Anthony's prediction show, but that was a week ago. I can't quite remember, but I'm going to stick with 3-1 win. Charlie, what are your thoughts?
I'm going 4-0. I think a team that can ship 3 goals against Leicester City. I think 4-0. I hate doing it.
It's great.
It's horrible.
I actually don't know. I really don't know, because like I said, I had this down as a draw on my little predictor thing that I had, but I also had City and Spurs drawing yesterday. So I'm obviously I'm going to back United to win. I can. Thing is, I said this about Reading. I can see it going either way. I can see it as a nick and a grudge match in terms of, because we're going to get one of these before or 2 of them before the end of the season, where we are going to have to dig in and win by the single goal. Whether that's this week, I don't know. But I share your two's confidence. Benny's very confident with his latest comment that he's just put in there. I'll stick with 3-0. I think we'll keep it clean. We'll go back to keeping
very conservative.
It's just an easy scoreline to pick, isn't it? 3-0. It's kind of in the middle. Yeah. But if Benny's prediction comes in, can we get like something going if that actually happens for Benny or something?
Yeah. Okay, so the easy option is to dye your beard. So instead of cutting your beard this time, he's going to dye his beard. And to make it 10 times worse, he's going to do it England colours. Because I know how much you'll love to back the Lionesses. So, red, white and blue. I think that's what we need to do. So if that happens, which you never know, she came off the bench and come close. Was it against Leicester?
Yeah, it was Leicester. Yeah. She could have had a goal. Yeah, against Leicester.
Yeah, she passed it instead of shot, didn't she? So brilliant, absolutely. Yeah. So we got to wrap up the show, guys. Really enjoyed that one tonight, and thanks to everybody in the comments. Plan for the rest of the week. So Matt's back with us tomorrow. He's going to be discussing Chelsea with what's happening there, away ends, and the FA Cup prize money. So lots of women's football chat news there as well. Wednesday is obviously game day, so I'll keep an eye on our social media for game day content there. Thursday, something different for a Thursday. It's a match reaction show for the West Ham game. So these games are coming thick and fast. Friday Fan Forum on Friday. Saturday Night Live with Ben and Matt on Saturday. No Anthony show this week because there's no WSL games this weekend. And then me and Connor, Matt, and everybody will be on the road on Sunday supporting our local team. So lots to look forward to, guys. Thank you again, Charlie and Connor. Fantastic show. And we shall see you again soon. Thank you, guys.